All right, let's jump right in. The pharmaceutical industry is staring down the barrel of its biggest digital rule change in, well, over a decade. The European Union has put a massive overhaul on the table for its good manufacturing practice guidelines, specifically for computerized systems, and it's going to shake up everything from cloud services to artificial intelligence.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break it all down. First up, we're going to explore why these changes are happening right now and why they're so urgent. Then we'll get into the specifics of the EU's new rulebook itself. After that, we'll zoom in on the details that really matter, the changes you absolutely need to have on your radar. And finally, we'll talk about the impact on the industry and what you can do to get ready.
So let's set the scene here. The fundamental problem is pretty simple. The pharma world is now running on Pharma 4.0 technology. We're talking advanced automation, AI, tons of data. But the rulebook that governs all of its computer systems, it's basically a time capsule from 2011.
And this timeline, wow, it just lays it all out, doesn't it? The current Annex 11 was written way back in 2011. Just think about what's happened since then. The explosion of cloud computing, the rise of AI, all this incredible automation. The technology has just sprinted ahead, leaving the regulations completely in the dust. It really is like trying to use a flip phone manual from 2011 to figure out your brand new smartphone.
So, you can imagine, regulators at the European Medicines Agency in PIC/S, that's the Pharmaceutical Inspection Cooperation Scheme, by the way, they looked at this massive gap and knew something had to be done. The old rules were just too vague, leaving a ton of ambiguity when it came to modern tech. So the whole point of this update is to get everyone on the same page with clear, modern rules that actually match the risks and realities of today's digital world. Okay, so what's the solution that the EU is proposing? Well, let me tell you, this is not just some light touch-up. It's a full-on, two-part overhaul designed to drag the regulations, kicking and screaming if necessary, into the 21st century. First up is the revised Annex 11, which covers all computerized systems. Think of this as the new foundation. And it massively expands the requirements, shifting from these general principle-based ideas to super detailed prescriptive rules. There's a much heavier emphasis on quality risk management, on data integrity, and really importantly, way stricter oversight of your software and service suppliers. And then there's the second part, which is, honestly, a landmark moment. The brand new Annex 22. This is the very first time we have a dedicated set of GMP rules specifically for artificial intelligence and machine learning. It covers the whole shebang, from how you pick and train an AI model all the way to how you validate it and keep an eye on its performance.
All right, so let's get down to the nitty-gritty. What are the biggest, most impactful changes that you and your company really need to wrap your heads around? This is where it all gets very real, very fast. And to put this all into perspective, check out this quote from an analysis by Stephen Farrell over at Valkit.ai. He calls this the most significant update in over a decade. So yeah, this isn't just some routine paperwork shuffle. We're talking about a fundamental reshaping of the entire regulatory landscape. Now, let's talk about probably the single biggest bombshell in this whole proposal: audit trails. The old rule from 2011 was pretty flexible, right? It said you should consider creating a record based on risk. It was a judgment call. The new proposal? It throws that flexibility right out the window. It says systems should have an audit trail that automatically logs all manual user interactions. That jump from consideration to a mandatory all is, well, it's huge.
So what does that one little change from consider to all actually mean on the ground? Well, the real-world impact is absolutely staggering. According to that same analysis from Valkit.ai, an estimated 60 to 80% of existing computerized systems could fail to comply. Just let that sink in. That could be up to 4 out of every 5 systems you're running right now, legacy systems, spreadsheets, even some lab equipment that might need serious changes or to be replaced entirely.
And look, it's not just about audit trails, not by a long shot. You can see the pattern pretty clearly in this table. We're moving away from these kind of vague, principle-based ideas to really specific, prescriptive, technical rules. System validation is no longer some isolated IT job. It's now a core part of the pharmaceutical quality system. Supplier oversight goes from a simple assessment to needing extensive audits and super detailed contracts. And security? Forget general controls. We're talking mandatory multi-factor authentication, pen testing, and a whole new section just for managing alarms.
So what about those brand new AI rules in Annex 22? Well, let's just say regulators are playing it very safe. For any critical manufacturing process, the kind that directly impacts product quality, only static, predictable AI models are going to be allowed. Things like dynamic self-learning models, generative AI, LLMs, they are explicitly restricted from those critical uses. Now, you can still use them for non-critical stuff, but only if you have a human in the loop to check and verify every single thing the AI does.
Okay, so we've seen the what. Now for the so what. What does this all mean for the industry? And more importantly, what can you actually do about it to get ready for what's coming?
As you can probably guess, the industry's pretty split on this. On one side, you've got the modernizers. They're saying, finally, some much-needed clarity for things like cloud and AI. They see it as a good thing, a push towards digital transformation. But on the other side, you've got the critics. They're worried this is a one-size-fits-all burden that could create a massive compliance crisis, especially for companies with older, legacy systems. They're also pointing out some potential contradictions in the rules themselves.
So, with all that in mind, the big takeaway here is you cannot wait. You have to start moving now. The first step is a full inventory of all your computerized systems and a gap analysis against these new proposals. You need to start talking to your software vendors today about their plans for compliance. And of course, review and update all your internal procedures. And remember, this is all still a proposal. You can still make your voice heard by submitting feedback to the European Commission before that October 7th, 2025 deadline.
Look, at the end of the day, this is so much more than just another regulatory update. It's a clear signal that the era of Pharma 4.0 has officially arrived, and the compliance framework is finally catching up. It's going to demand a huge effort from the industry, no doubt about it, but it also gives everyone a clear roadmap for the digital future. The only real question left is your company ready for it?